Welcome back to U.S. Farm Report. This week on the Marketing Roundtables, we have Rich Nelson of Allendale and Mike North of Commodity Risk Management Group. All right, we started off with soybeans last week. We probably need to start off with it again this week. Mike, I'm going to start with you. We dipped below $10 overnight this week. Where do we go from here?
Well, soybeans have been the spark plug in this whole move, and the reality is sub $10 market attracted some new buying. Friday finished strong with a nice run on the Thursday break. And the reality is this is a market that really could go both ways. And ahead of a fairly critical USDA report next week, it's going to be very tough to create a new direction in the marketplace without that information.
And I know we had a couple things playing in soybeans' favor. I mean, we look at South American weather and we look at some of the fund action. Is there a chance, Rich, that the funds could jump in the corn market and spark a rally like we saw in soybeans?
There's always a chance. I think in this case, though, corn has quite a few headwinds against it right now, especially as we're ready to get this crop planted and get a huge 500 million bushel increase in production this year. We do, of course, have our problems with Brazil, which as of right now are not fixed, and there's actually no change in the forecast yet, which suggests a fix of that problem. However, with the massive U.S. supply ready to come online, I really can't see this market have any big rebound, at least on a fundamental basis here.
Yeah, Rich mentioned Brazil. They said they're going to start importing some corn. How bad is the situation there? And could that give these corn markets some life?
Well, they have had some stress, no question about that. And as we're heading into pollination, we definitely need to get that ongoing precipitation, cooler temperatures, which has been the bigger issue. And the reality is that will be an ongoing story. But in the backdrop of that story, you have other things. Rich mentioned the big U.S. crop coming, and we've had a really good start on planting. A lot of continued progress in the fields now. You've got China, who cued us 2 months ago that they were going to be destocking themselves. You know, that story came out on Thursday, and we watched as people got a little bit afraid of new corn making its way to the marketplace. That's the kind of stuff that corn's going to have to continue to fight. It makes it really tough to see a soybean-like move.
Well, we have this supply and demand, and USDA report coming out next week. Do you think that we will see some adjustments based on the damage we've seen in areas like Argentina and Brazil? Will that show up in this next report?
Well, there's no doubt USDA will take a minor stair-step approach towards this whole issue with South America. So in other words, we're not going to see them drop from 84 million tons on Brazilian corn down to 78. It's probably something maybe 81 or so, at least for this step right now. And we'll see certainly a lot of change regarding that maybe in future months as the U.S. season kind of evens out after planting. We'll probably see a little more focus on the U.S. side here, certainly.
Mike, I see you shaking your head. Yes, you agree with Rich. But is that already priced into the market at this point? Or does that help prices next week? Could we get a little rally?
Well, I think it brings confirmation to the fact, right? USDA didn't chase the crops on the way up when they were getting bigger in everybody's eyes, and they're not going to chase them on the way down either. So they'll take a more conservative approach to arriving at their final number. Bottom line is I agree with Rich in the fact that we likely will see a metered approach in working towards a smaller number. But the reality of that is now we get a look at the U.S. balance sheet to now bring a little bit of a two-continent balance to the discussion. We aren't going to just be focused on South America. Now everybody's going to have to come back and say, look at all of these numbers that we're going to be producing in 2016 right here in the homeland.
What are some of Allendale's projections and estimates ahead of this report next week, Rich?
No, for ourselves, number one, we actually have a smaller supply than what USDA is going to show here next week. Number one issue is we have a smaller trend yield. 165 is our starting point considering normal weather instead of 168, which is USDA's current number here. So USDA is going to use that, a very big number thrown at us here. As far as overall numbers, 14.1 billion bushel corn crop is what we're plugged in right now. That's over 500 million bushels in last year. In addition, looking at about 2.1 billion bushel ending stock. We're going to be a little smaller than what USDA is going to show here next week. They'll be in the high 2.2s, maybe into the 2.3 territory.